Unbelievable. Hamas today is at war with Israel, and Israel is at war with Hamas. And it is going to drag the entire region into chaos. Meanwhile, Hamas is using a photo of a dead child from Syria to wage a propaganda war against Israel. And I watched NBC today. Of course, whose side do you think they're on? Meanwhile, the conservative press is not backing Israel. They'll remain neutral, fair, and balanced, of course. Where the world is at war. Whether you like to admit it or not, the world is at war. And this is the way it always ends when the world is being redesigned and borders are being redrawn and currencies need to be reset. The world always goes to war. And we've been warning you about what was coming in the Middle East since before this president was in office. We warned in 2004, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 10, 11, and 12. It's coming. Just the conditions have to be right, and the conditions are beginning to be right. The world has to turn, including us, has to turn against Israel. And we are. The voices are being snuffed out. The world needs a bad guy, and we're about to have two of them. We're about to have Israel and the great Satan. But the great Satan is turning. The great Satan is turning, and they think they're going to be able to save themselves by coming in at the end and saying, oh boy, the way we were on your side the whole time. By funding evil. By arming evil. But evil remembers. And in the end, whether you like it or not, you will be fighting against radical Islam, whether it is in the streets here in America or the streets of Benghazi, you will be fighting radical Islam. And if it's not you, it'll be your children. I'd rather have the fight myself. I'd rather have the fight when we have the strength to fight. I'd rather fight it with paperwork. I'd rather fight it in the court system than with guns. I'd rather fight it with the truth, because that's really all that is required. The truth. But the truth is too painful of an agenda. The truth can get you killed today. The truth can get you smeared today. But the truth is coming. The truth is coming in our currency. Last night we did a show on the Weimar Republic and showed you what happened when you print currency. You can make $1 billion. You could be a billionaire. Who wants to be a billionaire? People were making hundreds of billions of dollars by the end in the Weimar Republic. Last night I laid out on a giant chalkboard all the things that Germany did. They're exactly the same as what we have done. And the most important thing that Germany did in the end was the decay of societal values, the decay of the truth, the decay of man's love for man. I told you when Tunisia, when the guy first set himself on fire, the president said, that's Rosa Parks. I said, that's the Archduke Ferdinand. When Egypt first started rioting in the streets, I said, that's the beginning of the caliphate. The president said, that's the Muslim Brotherhood. They're largely secular and our friend. When Hamas was attacked yesterday by Israel, I said, that's the beginning of World War III. The president and everybody else says, there goes Israel. There they go again. We should talk some more to our enemies. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's been 9 or 10 days since the election, and we've been almost entirely Obama-free, and I can't take him anymore. I'm redesigning just about everything I do just to stop talking about him because I can't talk about him anymore. At least as far as talking about his policies or playing sound bites from him, today we momentarily break our self-imposed moratorium on Baracknifobia or Obamanations. See, it's like Rob Nees, you get it? Remember the fun? That was so much fun. All those days don't go away. Yeah, it was great. But we have to help you make a case with your Obamanoid friends. See, I did it again. It's like Rob Nees.
Like Rob Nees?
Yeah.
I like that.
So good. It's good. The case is, how can you possibly believe anything that these people are saying? How can you possibly buy into this? I told you yesterday that I have a friend who wrote for General Hospital, was the one responsible for Love in the Afternoon. She was there. She was the head writer for all ABC soaps. She wrote the soap Bible for Love in the Afternoon. And remember, that's when Luke and Laura got married. I believe they were also trying to freeze the world. We went over the Benghazi story, and this is literally true. She said ABC would have never bought that. She said that story's impossible. They would have never bought this story. It's too implausible. And I reminded her, you're the one who wrote them trying to freeze the world. She said yes, but it made sense on paper. So in our continuing effort to arm you, because you are the verb, to arm you with an argument on how can you possibly believe the stuff they're selling. Look at this Benghazi and Petraeus mess. How, after all that has happened with this, can anybody believe a word that they are saying? First, they told us that Benghazi was all about a pathetic, laughable YouTube video.
And that is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks. It was a crude and disgusting video.
Okay.
Sparked outrage throughout the Muslim world.
Okay, this was not just the day of or the next day, but in just not a casual mention, as he said there, for the last 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, he was blaming the schlocky 2-bit YouTube fiasco for what happened in Benghazi. And Jay Carney solidified the administration's position.
This is a fairly volatile situation, and it is in response not to United States policy, not to, obviously, the administration, not to the American people. It is in response to a video.
A video. Got it? A video. Then Obama was on The View. He said they were still investigating.
But then I heard Hillary Clinton say that it was an act of terrorism. Is it? What do you say?
Well, we're still doing an investigation.
Still doing an investigation. Isn't that incredible? So it went from absolutely a YouTube video, not to our policies, to we're still doing an investigation, even though reports were out. Even though the fact that we have cameras all around the world, we can see anybody do anything. We had 2 drones over Benghazi. Yet, have you seen a picture of it yet? Sending real-time video back to the White House to watch the attack live. Have you seen a single video of it yet? Have you seen one, America? Have you seen one? We had cameras there. There were cameras on that embassy. On that safe house, you know there were cameras there. Nobody had a cell phone. Nobody could send a picture back. We had 2 drones overhead sending real-time pictures, and yet they still have to investigate. You haven't seen a picture either. Then they finally decided that since YouTube protesters probably didn't show up at CIA safe houses with RPGs, machine guns, and with an organized, premeditated attack plan, they couldn't even get their lapdogs in the mainstream media to believe that fairy tale. So now, not only is it terror, but it is self-evident terror.
It is, I think, self-evident that what happened in Benghazi was a terrorist attack. So our embassy was attacked violently, and the result was 4 deaths of American officials.
So it was self-evident terror. And not only is it self-evident that it was terrorism, but apparently they never said anything else.
Did you and others mislead the public because you didn't want to admit there was a terror attack?
Absolutely not. The President of the United States referred to it as an act of terror immediately after it occurred.
Immediately?
If you're citing that on September 12th, the president called it terrorism. He used a phrase like act of terror. No act of terror. Well, then why were you at this podium for several days after that saying we don't know if it's terrorism? If you're not
saying that. I never said we don't know if it's terrorism. There's an issue about the definition of terrorism. This is by definition an act of terror, as the president made clear.
Okay, stop. I can't. This is why we put a moratorium on these people. I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. And I can't do it anymore because I can't believe that our neighbors, that 50% of the people in our neighborhood cannot see the truth. And if they do see the truth, they don't stand up. They're not saying anything about it. So the president immediately said terror. Really? Yet 2 weeks later, he said...
That is what we saw play out in the last 2 weeks.
Remember that?
There's a crude and disgusting video.
Got it. And Carney never said he didn't know that it was terrorism. No, he actually said something much, much worse. He said it was definitely something else.
This is a fairly volatile situation, and it is in response not to United States policy, not to, obviously, the administration, not to the American people. It is in response to a video.
Right. Now, after lie after lie after lie, more lies are put on top of it. More lies. Oh, but they didn't know. They had no idea this was going to turn into this. This was just another spontaneous event. Petraeus happened to happen on the day of the election, not a day before, not a week before. They knew nothing about it. The sex scandal with General Petraeus, man, it couldn't have come at a worse time. Now the media's got to talk about a sex scandal, and so we do not talk about what did the president know and when did he know it about Benghazi. Now we're having to ask the question, what did the president know and when did he know it about the sex scandal at Benghazi? The FBI knew about Petraeus, the affair, before he became CIA director. So they knew this while they vetted him for the job. This means that somebody didn't tell the President of the United States that he was putting into the most sensitive position of all time a guy who could be blackmailed, was having an affair. That is the most irresponsible thing I've ever heard. If the President didn't know, somebody should lose their job.